review to you. So this last section here, we're going to talk about circles and a coordinate plane. So we're going to talk about writing equations of circles, and then we're going to talk about graphing them. So it's a really short assignment, actually. I don't have a lot of time just because the first hour I didn't have a lot of work time to go over everything I wanted to go over on the green sheet. So the first thing I actually want you to do, we're going to go ahead and write on your green sheet the equation of a circle. We're not going to worry about journals today. So I'm going to skip those couple charts at the top. I'm going to go through them kind of quickly, but I'm not going to have you fill anything in. But at the top of your green sheet, I need you to write in the equation of a circle. You probably can't read that, so I'm going to rewrite it up here. This is like your big formula for the day. That is the standard equation of a circle, which I believe you actually saw back in junior high. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Okay? H and k, I really don't know still to this day the significance of those variables, but h comma k is your center of your circle. And then r, what do you suppose r stands for? Yep. Good. Whenever you're talking about circles, and we'll get into like area and arc length and stuff next chapter, r is always the radius. That's your big formula for the day. Now, let's look at a few different equations of circles here. And it always equals the radius squared, not just the radius, okay? So let's just see what happens when I center my circle at the origin, at 0, 0. Let's look at that equation. Okay, so let me just show you what it looks like. If I center my circle at 0, 0, with a radius of 1, okay, that's my equation of my circle. X squared plus y squared equals 1. Okay, that's if my center is at 0, 0. So notice that if x and y don't go anywhere, there's no parentheses here because they didn't shift at all. Let me move the circle so that the center is at 1, 1. Positive 1, positive 1. Okay. Now the equation is x minus 1 squared plus y minus 1 squared equals 1. Let's look at the negative direction. Let's move it to -2, -3. We'll keep the radius at 1. If it's at -2, -3, my equation is x plus 2 squared plus y plus 3 squared equals 1. Okay? I'm just showing you. What do you kind of notice is the relationship between the center and what's written in the equation? Avery? They're opposites, that's exactly right, and that's the easiest way for me to explain to people how to write a circle. So before you go to lunch, I would like you to add into your notes really quick that the h and k are opposites of what the actual point is. So somewhere, or just write somewhere on there like think opposites. As usually I tell people, think opposites. If it goes in the negative direction, you actually put a plus. If it goes in the positive direction, you put a minus. Okay, we'll pick up on that when you get back from lunch. Please be on time, guys. I need you right back here at 1 o'clock.
That doesn't like change the outside.
Okay, we're back. So we looked at a few different equations, and we said the pattern that we saw is that when you write the equation, it's actually the opposite of where the point's actually at. So if your point's at a positive number, then you actually want to put a minus in the parentheses, and if it's at a negative number, then you actually want to put a plus. And that'll be the same. Next year, you guys are going to do a lot of graphing. You'll look into different functions like parabola functions, quadratic functions. Those are the same thing. I don't know why I said that. Absolute value functions. Can't think of the other one at the top of my head right now. But when you start looking at those functions and you start talking about the vertex of those functions, it's going to be the same exact rule. You always got to think opposites when you write those vertices or the center of something. Okay. So if we are being asked to write the equation of this circle, you can't see anything. Okay, hold on. Unfreeze. There we go. You will have to know the center and you have to know the radius. Okay. Now I am very visual, so I could probably look at that circle and find where the center is right away. Right here is 0, 0. If you cannot find the center of a circle just by looking at it, then try looking at the diameter. Like try counting the diameter all the way across. And like the diameter there is 6 boxes. You know the center has to be halfway in between. So half of 6 would be 3 boxes in. And then your center would be 3 boxes in from the edge of the circle, which is at 0, 0. And then your radius goes by definition from the center to the side of the circle. So there's 4 different radii that you could count here. You could count from the center to the right, you could count up, you could count left, or you could count down. Now when I say that, I'm saying like, this is also a radius right here, but you can't count diagonal boxes. That's not really gonna help you. But if we count this radius right here, how many boxes is that? 3. And you'll notice that it's 3 all the way around the circle, because your radius has to be the same all the way around the circle. Now we'll write the equation. Now, if your center hasn't gone anywhere and your center's at 0, 0, you don't have any numbers in the parentheses. You just leave it as x squared and y squared. You only put numbers in the parentheses when you've moved away from the origin. And then it always equals the radius squared. So since our radius is 3, what's 3 squared? 9. And that would be the equation of the circle. That tells me it has a center at 0, 0 and a radius of radical 9, which is 3. Letter B doesn't give us a picture, but that's okay. They give us the center and they give us the radius. Now, if my center is at 0, negative 9, it didn't go anywhere horizontally. X is still at 0, so we just write it as x squared. But the y moved, so that's going to involve some parentheses. Now again, you got to think opposites. If it moved down 9, you actually want to put plus 9 in parentheses, because it's like you're thinking what makes it 0. And then it always equals the radius squared. So 4.2 squared, by the way, is not 16.4. 4.2 times 4.2 is what? Okay, so in order to write an equation of a circle, you have to have the center and you have to have the radius, period. Now on your test, I just straight up give you, this is the center, this is the radius, write the equation. So it's pretty straightforward. Questions? Because that's what 4.2 squared is. Any other questions? Always ask questions. Good question. So your center is at 0, negative 9. So it's like you took your circle and moved down 9 spaces. So to represent that in the equation, you got to think opposites. You want to write y plus 9 since it went down 9. You're always thinking like what makes it 0, essentially, is what you're doing here. Because the center didn't move, so you just leave it as x squared and y squared. Because you moved the center away from the origin. So like if my center was at 1, 4, then it would be x minus 1 squared plus y minus 4 squared, because that tells me I went right 1 and up 4. Okay. Okay, try those two on your own really quick. So here's your standard equation. And I want you to fill in the h, the k, and the r squared. Go. So this is like exactly what it'll look like on your test. This is the center, this is the radius, write the equation, go. All right, who wants to give me number one? The equation for the first one. Avery?
Squared plus y squared.
6 point what? Okay, so it's x squared and y squared because the center's at 0 and 0. It didn't move anywhere. You only put a number in parentheses when it moves. You can put x plus 0 squared, but that's just kind of a useless step to do. And then the radius squared, 2.5 squared is 6.25. Are we okay with the first one? You say no? No. No, you're not okay? I don't.
Jen says it, no, I'm not okay, I don't understand.
Okay, so here's your standard equation of a circle. Since your center is at 0, 0, it would literally look like x minus 0 squared plus y minus 0 squared. Well,
Yeah, it's the second one. Like,
this one?
yeah.
You take the radius and square it.
No, not that. Like the second problem.
Oh, okay. The second one, who, before I answer her question, who wants to help me out and give me their answer? What they think it is. Brooke?
Squared plus y minus 5 squared equals 49.
Okay, so if you use this equation, your h is negative 2. Well, if you do x minus negative 2, that turns to x plus 2. And if you plug in 5 for k, you get y minus 5 instead of y minus k. And then your radius squared would be 7 squared, which is 49. Kinda? Yeah. But if you always just think opposites, like if they give you a negative, it becomes a plus. If they give you a positive, it becomes a minus, then you'll be okay. Any more questions on writing equations of circles? Okay, let's look at one. You'll have two on your homework like this where they don't give you the radius. Okay, what happens if they don't give you the radius? You cannot write an equation of a circle without the radius. You have to have that piece. It always equals r squared. Now, you don't have a picture on yours, but they give us the set. You'll have two problems on your homework with no picture, by the way. I think it's like towards the bottom of the sheet. They give you the center, and then they just give you a point on the circle. There are infinitely many points on the circle, but they give you one of them. By definition, your radius goes from the center to a point on the circle. How could I find that length right there? I can't count boxes. You can't count boxes diagonally, unfortunately. But what else could I use to find that distance? Not slope. I said it. Huh? I thought someone just said it. Distance formula. Distance formula. We haven't used that in a long time, you guys. But we'll be okay. Distance formula. Subtract the x's, so -5 and -1 will subtract. And then subtract your y's, 6 and 3. I'm going to go through this quickly since we did distance formula a ton this year. Okay, so you asked a very valid question. Jordan says if the radius is the same all the way around, why couldn't I just go down and count those boxes? And you could. But on your homework, it might not be a whole number, number one, and number two, you won't have a picture. So we're going to practice distance formula, but we should get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 if we do it correctly. But on your homework, I don't think they're both whole numbers, and then you won't have a picture, so just keep that in mind. A very valid question. -5 minus -1. Anytime you have a double negative, it's a positive. -5 plus 1 is -4. 6 minus 3 is 3. Write it all down, guys. Write down the work, or when you get to your homework, you're not going to know what process to do. You're going to ask me about it. What do I do? Well, did you look at your notes? You didn't take any notes. That's a shame. -4 squared is 16. 3 squared is 9. 16 plus 9 is 25. Oh, look at that. The square root of 25 is 5. And 5 is your radius. Yes. That's your R. So then to write the equation of a circle, you have to have the center and you have to have R. There's R. There's your center. Now we can write the equation. Okay. So Haley, since you asked, I'm gonna pick on you a little bit here. If the x-coordinate is -1, what would go inside here if you think opposites? What? +1 squared. And then if this is a +3, anybody, what would go here? -3. Y -3. And then your radius squared. So 5 squared is 25. Now, let me show you something, because it might come up on your homework. If your radical is not a perfect square, like for instance, if you get radical 21, you could type it in and get a decimal, but you don't really need to, because look at what happened here. When I square my radius, the radical just goes away. So I really didn't need to even like take the square root and get 5. I could have just taken the radical away, and that would have been what goes at the end of the equation. So like on your homework, if you got radical 21 when you did distance formula, that's what would go at the end of the equation. And you're not like solving anything, you're not plugging anything in. This is your answer. If they say write the equation, that is where you stop. Questions on writing an equation? Okay, I got one little thing left to cover. Graphing. So on your test, you have 2 problems where you have to write the equation and 2 problems where you have to graph. And I did not give you a good grid, so please bear with me, and I apologize. I think it's better on your homework. But this problem says you have a 0.34 on the circle, and then your center, that'll be important, is at 1,4. Okay, and they want you to write the equation and then graph the circle. Can't write the equation unless you have the radius. So your center is at 1,4 and then your radius. Well, again, by definition, your radius is the distance from the center to a point on the circle. Well, here you don't actually have to do distance formula because it's just a horizontal line. So what's that distance there? 2. That'll be your radius. Okay, so let's go ahead and write the equation, because on the actual test, I give you the equation and you have to draw the graph from there. So what would this equation look like? Jordan?
X minus 1 plus y minus 4 squared.
Right, because it always equals the radius squared. So on your test, what happens is I give you the equation and you have to graph the circle. So on your test and on your homework, you're going to have to square root the radius to draw it. Now, when you draw a circle, always plot the center first, and then you're going to draw 4 extra points, and here's where those 4 points are going to come from. It's going to come from your cardinal directions. You're going to go the radius to the right, radius up, radius left, and radius down. So we went 2 boxes to the right already. We're going to go 2 boxes up. I know it goes off the graph. I apologize. We're going to go 2 boxes to the left, and we're going to go 2 boxes down. And then to finish your circle, you just connect all the points and that's it. Now, this is really hard for me. Mine usually ends up looking like Stewie's head from Family Guy. So I'm going to draw. I just can't get the curvature right. So it always looks like a lemon. Right? Not super circular, but close enough. Kind of looks like Stewie's head, right? Eyes and ears. So again, that tells me that circle has a center at 1,4 and it has a radius of 2. So on your homework and on your test, you're going to have to look at this equation, make sure you square root whatever this number is, and that's going to be your radius. And then draw your circle in. Okay. You do have about 7 minutes here to start your homework, so please sit quietly. We don't need to leave the room. We can sit for 7 minutes and do your homework. 10.7. And
Kelly?
People are still missing work, you could get that turned in as well. The homework's not very long on the circles, 10.7. So if you're quiet and you work hard, you might be able to get it
No, I
done.
have to show her. No, she. You get out after 5. Look how good this circle is around there.
What? Okay, it should be quiet and you should working, guys. What?
Oh, I have to show you something to be done.
Is it math related?
Yes. is on his way.
Show me at the end of class. How about let's just work right now. Jordan, remember when I said don't move? Jordan, sit down.
Pure water, perfect taste. Water does have taste. But water tastes like nothing. What? Nothing is not a flavor. No, are you stupid or are you dumb?
Please work. Just did. Set. We're gonna get the center from, well, for that one, yeah. No. And then your radius is, that's, it's always equal to radius squared, so you square it. Your radius.
I never can hit me with a sledgehammer. Oh god. Oh no. That's a magnet. I don't even care. There's water. Just put water in my seat.
Andrew, are you working?
My butt's wet.
Are you working?
I'm trying to. You got coffee in your water. How is it though? I've heard pieces. Can you see it? Yeah. I'll take it. Oh, DeAndre, you're making it obvious. Shut up. Turn around and sound. Dude, I'm having the worst day. Stop! So you leaning over your back so you cross the line. I'm having the worst day ever. What? I didn't see it. I was in the woods. I was getting words out. We aren't even that there for me. That's because you said you're funny. Shut up.
Do you know the school has bathrooms, right?
I don't care. The bathrooms are massive. There's literally boogers on the wall. People literally rub their boogers on the wall. That's true. It's gross. And just be sitting there and mind your own business. You look over and we all freaking fat out of the face. What is this? Walking random.
Into that chair.
That wasn't even me.
The flower, always my favorite. Look at all this homework. I will.
You can't even see it on my line.